Hey guys, so for my wildlife infectious disease, I chose canine distemper. It's a highly infectious disease, and so if you have pets, especially dogs, it's an important disease to kind of have a deep understanding of. That way you can prevent it, because if your dog sadly gets it, there's not much you can do. So we're going to go straight into the cause. So, canine distemper is caused by the canine morbillivirus. It's one of the three most common morbilliviruses, which are generally known to be pretty severe. It is a paramyxovirus, which means it's a single-stranded RNA virus, and it codes for just 8 proteins. And then here's an image that goes more into the details of, one, what those proteins I just mentioned are, and then just the general structure of the virus itself. So now into a little bit of history. It is thought that canine distemper first was brought from Peru to Spain in the 17th century. And then the reason that it became so widespread, because now it is global, is that when the agriculture started booming, it caused a dense population between humans and animals. And this is the type of virus that needs a dense population to thrive, so it has plenty of hosts to go off of. By 1764, it was present in Spain, and then it traveled to England, and then traveling to Italy. By 1770, it was in Russia, and then basically now it's pretty global. It's commonly found in most continents and countries. So by 1809, a man named Edward Jenner published a description of the physical traits of the disease, and then some of the medical things that were known about it at the time with the limited knowledge they had back then. And then by 1906, a man named Henry Carr was the first to actually isolate the virus. So he made a lot of great leaps in further understanding the virus and how it worked. And then just another side note, the reason that it has spread globally, like I said before, is that with domestic dogs, it is much more easy to do so, just because of how much more in contact they are with each other, and how much more common it is to have dogs in the household. And then this is just an image I found of kind of the most important little events about the canine distemper virus. So it starts with the first description, and then all the outbreaks, going eventually into the different sorts of animals that it can spread to, because it does spread to more than just dogs, as we'll talk about later, and ending in the more recent outbreak in 2008 of the macaque outbreak in Japan and China. So now into the transmission. There's kind of 3 ways that it can happen, though airborne is the most common. The others are fairly rare. So this being sneezing or coughing from an infected individual to an uninfected individual. And then 2 other ways it could happen is by fomite. So if you have 2 pups in the house and they're sharing doggy bowls, they're probably both gonna get it. And then it can also transmit vertically from the mother to her pup through the placenta. And then a little more about the pathology is that the virus binds to the SLAM and Nectin-4 receptors in your respiratory tract. So once it gets in, there's replication in the lymphatic system here, eventually infecting all of the lymphatic tissues. And then following that, there is an infection of the respiratory tract. the GI tract and urogenital epithelium, the central nervous system, and the optic nerves. And then here again is just a more detailed picture of the replication that goes on actually inside the infected individual. So if you want to pause this and kind of see the different proteins and the SLAM and Nectin-4 receptors binding and such, here's where it is. And now into the host range. So this has a wide array of hosts. They're generally mostly from the order Carnivora, so ranging from dogs, foxes, raccoons, weasels, ferrets, the giant panda, the red panda, big cats, so lions, tigers. Those are just to name a few. Actually, I kind of pick and chose my favorite. Though it is mostly related to dogs, it's important to know that it exists in all these other species as well. And then the picture below is a photo of the African wild dog in Africa. Sorry. It is the most threatened species right now, so that's just a little fun fact. Now into the symptoms, some things you should look out for. Before the virus starts really attacking the central nervous system, the initial things you're going to see are eye discharge, so pussy and kind of watery, a fever, nasal discharge, lethargy, loss of appetite, vomiting, and then once the virus starts truly getting into the central nervous system, you'll kind of see sort of those weird little symptoms like circling more so than a normal pup would, head tilting, muscle twitches, repeated jaw chewing movements, more salivation than normal, seizures, partial and complete paralysis, and then the last thing is hardened foot pads and noses from ketones. And I believe what it's called because of this sometimes is hard paws syndrome, something to that extent. So you may hear it mentioned like that from other sources if you research on your own. And then here I just have a picture of the hardened nose on this poor little pup and the nasal discharge that you can see there. So that's what that would look like. And then I couldn't find a specific R0, but I do want to note, like I said before, this is highly infectious and it has a mortality rate of upwards of 50%, though it is more common in pups because they haven't built up that immunity yet. So it's super important, as I will get to now, to get your dogs vaccinated. If you are getting a puppy, make sure they get those vaccinations. If you're getting a dog that is more grown up, make sure you check that they have those vaccinations. Because once a dog, or like I said before, any other animal, though the animal you will be dealing with most likely is a dog, there's no cure for this. So there's only the treatment that it calls for is just to sort of ease the dog's pain and kind of help relieve some of that. So they'll prescribe some antibiotics, and you're thinking antibiotic, this is a virus. That's just because once you have this viral infection, you can be prone to secondary infections that can be bacterial. So they'll prescribe that to ease those infections. And then electrolyte and parenteral nutrition, those are just some things to help the dog get all the nutritions they need, because they're not going to be wanting to eat on their own, so they'll need some help with that. And then antipyretics for fevers, and then painkillers, and then anticonvulsants, because as I mentioned before, this disease does cause seizures, so that would help treat that. And then, like I said before, prevention, vaccinations, and then just avoid contact with infected animals. And then if your puppy is going to have a little puppy play date, you want to make sure that their dog was vaccinated as well. We can't just trust that they were, especially if they are young and maybe don't have all of them yet. And then these are just some of my citations. Yeah, I hope you guys found this really interesting. I sure thought it was interesting, especially considering I figure a lot of us do have dogs or know someone with a dog, so or want a dog in the future. So it's important to know and important to know how to prevent it, and I hope your dog never gets it. So thank you, and I'll see you for the humans.